So there's a quote that says, "Whenever I miss you, I look at my heart because it's the only place I can find you." That's so sweet. I mean, this is a nice quote, all right? It's just a beautiful quote. And the reality is that it's nice to be missed. It's a thing that we desire from someone that we want to be with or we are with, someone that we love, so on and so forth. And so many women out there are asking the question, well, how can I get this guy to miss me? How can I evoke these beautiful feelings and pull that out of him? And I understand why you want that and why you seek out that answer. But what has concerned me is the type of information you have received about this. Now, there are some answers to this question, and I'm going to give you 3 clear ways to make a guy miss you, all right? To pull that out of him. However, I want to start with going over some of what I consider to be unhealthy advice that's being given when it comes to making a guy miss you. Now, let me say this before I get to the first one. Game playing of any type is not healthy for a relationship. It's not good. There are consequences. It's not that these tips and tricks that you're hearing on the internet don't work, but they work temporarily. All right. They work to get an initial reaction, but it's not sustainable. So it's like, yes, you might be able to get this guy to be jealous or miss you in this moment. But once the fog clears, he doesn't feel that way about you anymore. So what's the point? You see what I'm saying? We want to make sure that if he's going to miss you, he's going to desire you, he's going to cherish you, respect you, it's going to be sustainable. And you can keep having this feeling as long as you're both pouring into each other the right things. So with that said, let's go over the first piece of, I'm trying to not say bad advice. I'm just going to use the word, you know what? Forget that. Bad advice. No shade to anybody, no disrespect to anybody. It's simply bad advice. The first thing on the list is when you're being told, don't let him think he's gotten you too soon. All right? So essentially, don't allow him to think he's won you and that you're going to be his too fast. And so it sounds good on the surface, right? But here's the problem. And first, let's explain it as why they're saying this is the reason why it'll make him miss you. Because again, the theory or the belief is that if he feels like he has you, he'll take you for granted, essentially. He'll get comfortable. Therefore, there's no reason to miss you because he feels like he has you wrapped around his finger. He's already got you. He's already won. He doesn't have to work anymore, right? And this is true that those things can happen. But what we have to understand is those things tend to happen with men who weren't that serious about you to begin with. Those things happen with men who are simply not best for you. That's not what happens with the guy who is actually interested, actually has feelings for you. And this is why it's unhealthy, because when you meet the right guy and he's making a real effort to be with you, and now you're playing this cat and mouse game because you don't want him to think he's got you, that you're feeling him, you now run the risk of causing insecurities to come out of him. You now run the risk of him starting to question how serious you are about him. He now starts to pull back because guess what? While you're being told to not let him think he has you, to get him to miss you, he's being told, you know what? If she's acting like this, pull back, fall back, so that she will start missing you. Do you see what's going on here? He's going to now react with his own game playing in many cases, or he will dive deep into a pool of insecurity. And I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. For a lot of situations, a lot of men, those insecurities end up making them look very feminine, very soft. Maybe we'll even use the word weak. He'll look weak in some of your eyes. It'll actually become unattractive. And though, yes, he needs to get to a place where he doesn't allow himself to dive so deep into insecurity that it ends up looking like that. But let's face it, you not essentially matching his energy, you not pouring back into him and giving him that feeling of, I want you as much as you want me, it's going to start to pull the wrong things out. So And this is going to be the reoccurring theme with all these I'm going to mention to you, but I'll break each one of them down. When you're dealing with the right person, these tactics will do more harm than good. So it doesn't serve you the purpose you think it will. But let's continue. And real quick, before I move on to the next one, I hope you understand when I say it'll make him come off as feminine, that you don't take that in a derogatory kind of way. I hope you understand what I'm getting at here. I'm trying to find the right words to express. I think most of you are getting what I'm saying, all right? Because most of you have experienced this. And he just comes off looking maybe overly emotional, and that's just not attractive to a lot of women. It's not that you don't want him to express his emotions, but when he's just all over the place and essentially unstable and is now looking like he's begging, that's just not appealing. For them, it might feel good for some of you for a little bit, but in the long run, that's not really what you want your man to be doing. You want him to love you, but you don't want him to be, again, just an emotional wreck all the time when it comes to you. That's just not what you're looking for. But let's move on to the next one. So number 2 on the list of bad and unhealthy advice when it comes to how to make a man miss you is don't say yes to him every time. So here's my concern with this. So again, the reason why they're saying don't always say yes is because you don't want to be so accessible. You don't want to be so available. You want to create space for him to miss you. Again, you don't want to make things easy for him. All these different things so that it essentially keeps your value, so to speak, and gives you the upper hand in the relationship. However, let's put this in a different context. First, ask yourself, before you start telling yourself to not always say yes, ask yourself, but does he always tell you yes? What I mean by that is this. If you are dating a man or in a relationship with a man, and whenever you need him, he's there for you. He's willing to, handle things for you. He helps you out. He's supportive, all these things. For you to turn around now and in a manipulative way, because this is what this basically is, in a manipulative and game playing way, calculate when you should tell him no, you know what I'm saying? Because you want to make sure he misses you and doesn't take you for granted. Again, it goes back to you're not matching his energy. It's one thing to be doing that with a guy who doesn't come through for you, but then the question becomes, why deal with a guy who's not coming through for you? But if he is, you don't want to respond with, sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no, because you're being all calculated with it. That's a problem. Not to mention, again, if I'm a man who's making effort, who's pouring into you, or who is good to you in so many ways, and then I need things from you, or I ask you to do things, and then you start saying no, you may think that in those moments you can come up with excuses that seem valid and won't bother him, and he'll accept it and respect it. And some of you may be able to pull that off at first. But at some point, people start to see the BS. Even men, they start to notice that it's like she don't want to be supportive. She don't want to help me here. She don't want to do this. She's always, he may even view it as you being difficult. Because if he needs something right now, and now your unwillingness to help in this area inconveniences him, and more specifically, at a time where in his eyes, you should be able to help. It's one thing if you generally in a position where you have to say no, that's okay. But when you're doing it to play this game, that's a problem. So my advice to you would be, just be real. If you can say yes, why not say? How are we trying to build healthy relationships by not being able to be there for our partner when we can? That's all I'm saying. If you can, you should not be afraid to say yes. If anything, I would much rather you say yes than and see if he matches your energy than to be playing the game of saying no. And to the point of missing you, who would you miss more? The man who is there for you when he can be, or the man who decides when he wants to be there for you when he doesn't? Who do you really value more in that situation? The person who's there for you. So who do you think he's going to value more? It doesn't really help in the long run. And that's another reason why it's just a bad piece of advice. All right, so moving on to the third thing. We got 5 of these total. The third piece of unhealthy, bad advice on how to make a man miss you is to not contact him. Now, This one, I want to say I'm very passionate about. Not because I've dealt with this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't deal with this, and this is something that it doesn't faze me personally. However, I've seen so many women engage in this behavior and then not understand how they've essentially sabotaged their own relationships, sabotaged their own potential for relationship with this guy. All right. So let's run through it. Not contacting him. Of course, the idea is in not contacting him, you give him a chance to miss you. He hasn't heard from you. Now he's thinking, why haven't I heard from her? I start to miss her. Now he has to reach out to you, all these things. All right. So again, can it work in the sense of evoking a feeling of missing you for the moment? It can. However, as I said before, this is typically going to work well with the guy who isn't for you. And it may work or may not work with him, because if he's not for you, he may not even care. He may be perfectly fine with you not contacting him, and he'll hit you up when he feels like it, when it's convenient for him. All right. But remember, I'm always going to approach this from the standpoint of, God forbid you take this behavior to the guy who actually likes you, who's actually serious. And now you're playing this no contact game. Well, guess what? As I mentioned earlier, now you're pouring seeds of doubt into him. Now you're pulling out insecurities or creating insecurities within him. Because let's understand something. And I believe this passionately, whether it's applying to women or men. It's one thing when we call people insecure because they have carried baggage into a situation and their insecurities reside within them and they're projecting it onto their partner. But it's another thing when you're dealing with someone who is creating insecurity in the relationship. No one gets a free pass for behaving in ways that can make anyone feel unsettled, make anyone feel unsure. Again, granted, there's a line that some people cross that maybe they're asking for an unreasonable amount of attention or whatever to feel secure. And again, that stems from deeper things within them they have not addressed. But there is an amount or balance that we have to strike, that we're pouring the right things into our partner so that we are not creating the insecurity. So in not contacting him, in blatantly choosing to not reach out, not only are you possibly creating problems within him and the potential where this can go, but you're driving yourself crazy in the meantime. That's the wild part about this. So many women, while they're not contacting the man, are in their head, why haven't I heard from him? What's going on? Like you're driving yourself nuts about this. You badly want to reach out to him, but you're convincing yourself that you shouldn't. So now, here's another thing that can happen, more specifically when dealing with the wrong man. If you're dealing with a man who just wants to have fun with you, right? Doesn't really want to talk. And so now you play this game up. I'm not going to reach out too much. I'm going to be careful with how much I text him or whatever. And he likes this because you're not stressing him. You don't require too much attention from him, right? And let's say this progresses to some form of a relationship. And I say some form because I'm not talking about, he didn't magically become serious with you. He just said, oh, well, this is convenient. This is nice. He may choose to put some kind of exclusivity on it, or it may just be a situationship. Either way, he proceeds on the idea that you don't require much. You don't ask for much communication. That's very comfortable and good for him. Now, when you actually start to progress in this situation, you can't suppress the real you forever. Now the real you starts to come out. Now you're like, why haven't I heard from you? Now you're blowing his phone up. Now you're texting all the time. Now he gets frustrated because it's like, I didn't sign up for this. I thought you were cool and laid back and don't sweat me. Now you want all these phone conversations and you want all my time. And now you end up in a more frustrating situation. So it doesn't work if he's good for you or the right man for you. And it doesn't really help you if he's the wrong man, because he's still the wrong man at the end of the day. But again, you can fall into these other difficult dynamics. At the end of the day, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. You want to contact that man? Contact that man. Again, I'd rather you be your true self, all right? Walk confidently in that and see if he can embrace that. See if he can then pour back into you what you require. But don't play the game of holding back and all this stuff. Not to mention, listen, an idle mind is the devil's playground. So just as you may pour insecurity and doubt into him, there's all kinds of thoughts that start to run through his head because now he doesn't understand what's going on with you. Rather than you hitting him up and simply saying, yo, I don't, like, if you're doing this because you felt like you weren't getting enough attention from him and you figure, okay, I'll fall back so he can start missing me and showing me more attention, it would be much better if you just talked to him about it, told him this is what you're looking for, and then he's either going to step up and show you that he's going to respect and honor your feelings and be that guy you need, or he will continue to fall short and it will become clear he is not best for you. All right, so now we're at the fourth one. And the fourth one that I saw that was some unhealthy advice to make him miss you is to be mysterious. All right. And so again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but so one, of course, the being mysterious just goes back to, you know, that mystery and makes him think about you, wonder, want to learn more, so to speak, you know, can create the feelings of missing you because it can put his mind in that place of thinking about you to the point that now he's wanting to reach out or he's wanting to be around you. But again, sometimes that's just creating curiosity in the man. And then what they say, curiosity killed the cat. So in this instance, you create this curiosity because you're mysterious. At some point, you guys connect. He finds out what he needs to find out. Mystery gone, and now no more missing. No more desiring you. Because it wasn't built off of a true desire for you. It wasn't built off of you having a connection. It wasn't built off of something genuine. You were just stirring up a certain kind of emotion that creates a certain kind of reaction, and then it's gone. And now you're going to be looking for the next trick to make him miss you, the next trick to reel him in. But it's always going to be temporary if it's not coming from the right place. We don't need mystery if we're trying to build something special. We need transparency. We need openness. Rather than making him wonder about you, show him who you are. And then either he loves it or he doesn't. Either he wants this or he can get the hell on. But we don't need to play no mystery game. All right? Now, listen. I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, right? Maybe. But I think that being mysterious can work more for men than it does for a woman. All right. I don't think this works to the advantage of a woman in any way, really, other than, again, soliciting maybe that initial response. I think for a man, it can draw a woman in even more. Also, being a mysterious man in general, some women like that because it's like, it's more that he's low key. Other women don't know about him. So I now know him, but I don't have to worry about him being all over the place in everybody's face and being all friendly with people. So that's how some women view it. So they like him being more low key, mysterious, all these things. But again, that's just not really in your favor. And it's not healthy. And it's one thing if someone is mysterious by nature, meaning some people they're kind of loners. They're very introverted. They're not trying to be mysterious to create a reaction and thoughts and get people to wonder about them. They just are that way. And that's fine if you really are that way. But when you're doing it to, again, get that reaction out of him, get him to miss you, whatever, it's not worth it. It's just not going to end in a good way. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. A woman who walks in her femininity walks in her power. And I'm about to help you access that power by giving you 5 feminine traits men find irresistible in women. Now listen, I am a firm believer